even feel like it's by my own want and doing that I want to join this conversation or be a part of this conversation. But something came across my desk yesterday. It was sent, something was sent to our office, and it encouraged me to look into a professor at Biola. Now, there's been a lot of conversation going on around Biola. Megan has done some, Megan Basham. Krista has done some, Theology Mom. Elisa Childers has done content on it. Thaddeus Williams, Eric Tanis, Fred Sanders, and Sean McDowell all did a podcast together talking about the good of the Bible department. And so when this came across my path yesterday, I was immediately irritated, and then it boiled into a bit of anger. And so I'm gonna jump right in. I'm not gonna, belabor like all of my emotions on it, but it definitely infuriated me. I was very, very, very upset. And I was upset because we are not, Biola is teaching young people, and what's happening, everything that tends to come out at Biola is coming out in the undergrad community. It's not coming out in the graduate community where like you're a full grown adult. Like, we are talking about young adults, I would say some who are emotionally and mentally still very on that young side. And when problematic issues arise, my first question is how is that impacting that young person? And so today, even though Petty Mo really does want to show up, Auntie Mo is going to show up, because and I would be very clear, I'm pissed at how often it is coming out that Biola and other Christian institutions are entrusting our young people to people who ain't got no. I'm like, do you even have a relationship with Jesus? What do you actually believe? So I'm going to start off by talking about the principles of free expression and diversity of thought. This is Biola's diversity of thought, not doctrine, but it's their statement. One of the things that Biola has put out in the last several years is this position of diversity of thought. And it really says that, hey, we are going to allow, the same way that Thaddeus and Sean McDowell on their podcast said, we might have people on this side, but we also might have people on that side. This is the reason why this diversity of thought. It says within our theological statements, freedom of thought is understood as a virtue to be cherished and not a vice to be shunned. The freedom includes open discourse and the exchange of ideas, which are at the heart of a flourishing university and society. Absent this free exchange of ideas in a spirit of intellectual rigor and humble civility, society succumbs to an ideological spirit that demonizes opponents, silences disagreement, and stiff arms debates. I can get on board with that as long as we are making sure that we have a firm foundation. The paragraph before that does say that Biola's commitment to diversity of thought is rooted in a foundational commitment to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then you can see what that foundation is in their articles of faith, their statement of biblical principles, and their unity amidst diversity, their theological statement on diversity. However, as Krista has highlighted, these things are not necessarily very robust in saying, hey, what do you believe on critical theory? What do you believe on queer theory? What do you believe on divination? Sometimes you got to ask that question. I'm going to keep going on the diversity of thought. This means faculty and students will engage and assess diverse thoughts, ideas, concepts, philosophies, and theological systems in a fair, sensitive, and rigorous manner with curiosity of mind and humility of spirit. We will examine critically the diverse ideas encountered in our fields of study and in the world at large in order to maintain the unity that Christ commands and the Christian liberty granted by the Holy Spirit. See, I have questions about that unity that Christ commands. Like, how are we understanding that? And who can I be at unity with? True unity. Members of our community have the freedom to think, engage, explore, teach, research, and write on topics appropriate to the scope of their particular disciplinary expertise and experience within the boundaries of our theological commitments. Okay, sounds good. I just had a computer glitch, so I am going to reopen what I was working on. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. So yes, this is what where Biola is saying. They're like, hey, we can have a diversity of thought, but at the end of the day, everything needs to point back to Jesus. Everything needs to be founded on our foundational principles and things like that. Well, okay, fine, good, great. Let's now enter art professor Astri Swenrud. I'm probably butchering her name. If she sees this, I apologize. I do want to say this is not a personal attack on Astri. I have no idea who this woman is. This was sent across my desk. My beef is with the University of Biola. It's with their leadership. It is with Barry Corey. Okay. I'm also giving side eye to their provost Hall, because at what point do you just not stop and do like a full audit of the people on your team? At some point, we have to say, you know what, this isn't a professor issue. This is a leadership issue. This is a board issue. Who is sitting on your board that you think it's okay to hire this person? Now, I might give Hall a little bit of a gracious like pass because he's only been there the last couple of years. Debbie Taylor before Hall, Hall is the provost. Debbie Taylor was before Matthew Hall, and she has run a lot of Biola into the ground as well. But at the end of the day, the buck is going to stop with Dr. Barry Horry as the president of Biola University. When you are looking at the university and all of the things that are going wrong with the common people, your regular professors and things like that, you need to look back at how is this shit being run. When your kids come home woke, when your kids come home thinking it's okay to participate in all manner of sorcery, witchcraft, divination, and LGBTQ plus festivities, don't just necessarily look at the professor. Go back and look at Barry Corey, because he is the one running the ship. If you come into my house and my house is messy, you need to look at the person who owns the house. So let's look at her biography on Biola's website. This is all public information. I didn't have to go and dig up nothing. I didn't have to go behind a paywall. This is all public information. If you want all this information, it's there. Just go and look for it. Astri is a visual artist and educator who lives and works in Los Angeles. She has taught as adjunct faculty since 2009. She's been at this place for almost 20 years, y'all. She just shy, 4 years shy of 20 years. Her practices include creating drawings, sculptures, and installation environments, combining the images and materials of everyday party supplies. I love a party, okay? Such as birthday candles and confetti with symbolic and ritual forms. I don't really know what that means. And when we look at her just regular thing on Biola, it doesn't look bad. She just looked like a regular old person who worked at Biola. So let's go. I went to her website, and I don't think her website address is shown inside of the picture that I'm gonna put up. But at the end, I will put all of this inside of, inside of the description. Candles have historically been used in rituals of sympathetic magic. The belief that a symbolic object can manipulate a real-world effect through the principles of correspondence and imitation. These beliefs, though esoteric in origin, also make their way into everyday behavior. The ritual of making a wish while blowing out a birthday candle demonstrates a desire to bring the unseen into being, to momentarily invest a common physical object with greater agency. Let's see. I think that's fine. So here's her pictures of her birthday candles. Okay. Now, if you remember, just going back to her biography really quick, it's not just birthday candles, but it's birthday candles and confetti with symbolic and ritual forms. So the next picture on her website talks about the confetti aspect. And it says these drawings function as maps for interpreting the positions of tossed confetti. To me, this gives reading tea leaves, but I could be wrong. And I'm not saying that that is necessarily what she's doing because I'm not sure, but I do want to know, what are you doing? How am I interpreting the position of the tossed confetti? And if I'm interpreting something, that means that there should be meaning coming from the position of the tossed confetti. So we reading confetti now? They are part of a larger body of work that combine everyday materials such as birthday candles and confetti with esoteric symbology and forms of ritual magic. I'm gonna let this speak for itself. Okay. But as the auntie in the room, I'm like, my nieces and nephews. Okay, this our family. As believers, this is our family that we are now entrusting to go to Biola. And oh girl, if my kid wanted to be an art major, the teacher believes in interpreting the position of tossed confetti. You got to make it make sense. And I don't care. This woman, I know this is gonna sound mean. My position is not to save Biola University. I know Krista has said that her heart really is, and this might sound mean. Y'all know me though. I am concerned about the students at Biola University. Sometimes that institution may need to fade into the background to save the people who are inside of it. And by this point, we need to understand that we are fighting a war for the students inside of the university. I don't know Astri. I'm sure she's probably a nice person, probably just doing her thing. I don't know. I don't know nothing about. I don't know if she's saved. I don't know if she believes in Jesus. I don't know if she believes in reading confetti, as her website says, interpreting the position of the confetti. I don't care. What I care about is the young people that we continuously send into these institutions that then continuously come back deconstructed. Now, I do pray for this woman. I would pray for this woman that, like, even since I found this out yesterday, I have sincerely prayed for this woman because she could believe in the legs of ants that are born in Jamaica on the right side of the sidewalk. That could be who she prays to. I have no idea. So I will pray for her because this seems suspect. They are okay, so let's go back to the beginning. These drawings functions as maps for interpreting the position of confetti. They are a larger body of work that combines everyday party materials with esoteric symbology and forms of ritual magic. The drawings, which visually echo sacred geometry charts or map orientation lines, rely on the inherently ordering nature of geometry to imbue a sense of containment and order while failing to provide a key to their interpretation. The star-shaped confetti sprinkled across them acts as a star chart waiting to be read. I didn't read many things in my life. I read things I agree with. I read things I disagree with. I ain't never read confetti. So there is that. Now, part of their whole project is something bigger, and it is called semitropic symbolism. And I had no idea what this was. I had never heard this term before. And so as Krista and I were talking about this yesterday, she actually found a podcast where Astri and her husband are on this podcast just talking about what is semitropic symbolism, where does it come from? And so I'm going to go through pieces of this podcast, and I'm going to do it in a bit of larger chunks. So bear with me because I do not want to misrepresent what they are saying. And because what they're saying is a bit out there, I want them to really just explain what they are talking about themselves. You know what though? I'm sorry, I think I forgot one thing. So going back to that slide, part of what they said is that it's a part of esoteric symbolism. And so before we go in further, I want to talk about and define esoteric symbolism, because this is something that, while I knew what esoteric was, or not esoteric symbolism, they called it esoteric symbology. I wasn't familiar with the term symbology, so I just typed into Grok, what is esoteric symbology, and this is what came up. Esoteric symbolism, often misspelled as symbology, is the study and use of hidden, secret, or deeper spiritual meanings behind symbols, signs, images, numbers, letters, and geometric shapes that are not obvious to the average person. This is a form of Gnosticism. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's some form of Gnosticism mixed with perhaps some divination. I look, I'm old school. Somebody once in my life would have called that witchcraft. I'm not saying that that is what this is, but if we reading the confetti right. Okay. Breakdown of the terms: esoteric, intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or an inner circle. Krista's not here to read the Greek. Esoterikos. Symbolism, the use of symbols to represent ideas, energies, archetypes, and cosmic truths. Esoteric symbolism is the inner mystical language used in occult traditions, mystery schools, alchemy, Kabbalah, Freemasonry. I don't even know what that next word is. Gnosticism, astrology, tarot, sacred geometry, and secret societies. Yeah, I'm not talking about this lady, okay? I am talking as the auntie. I want to go right to the top. I want to go right to the top at this point. This woman, she I ain't got no beef with her. I ain't She is not. No. I'm gonna go right to the top, because she has been allowed to be at Biola and do what she does. And I'm not saying that she's necessarily teaching this, but how do you sign the statement of faith? I have a question. Who is your boss? Who is the one who checks up on you to make sure that you on the up and up? Because when I look at the people who work at the Center for Biblical Unity, we need to have conversations. What, are you still okay? Is it you still sure this your belief? What are some of the things that you have on your public website? What's your Facebook page look like? Because this isn't hidden. This isn't like, again, I didn't have to pay for this. I didn't have to do a ton of digging about this. Her Instagram page is private. All I could see on her Instagram page was that she had her pronouns, but I'm much more worried about this than I am her pronouns at this point in life. But this is public information. I am just sharing what is available publicly. So if I can do that as a regular person, what's stopping the regular people at Biola from doing this? Okay, so I am going to start the what do you call it? The podcast. The podcast is listen only. It just has a picture up there, and they're going to talk about this whole semitropic symbolism and what that is, how it started, how they got involved. Listen, and I'll highlight this as we go on. And I'm not going to go through the whole podcast, but I do have some notes, some things chunked out, and listen for what they say and how they have been involved in spiritualist things before they got involved with the semitropic symbolism. Much of her art, and from what I can see on her website, it looks like much of her art is inspired by some type of esoteric symbology. And so that it makes me wonder, because wherever you go, there you are. How does she show up in her classroom, and how is she teaching our young people? When you send your kid to Biola and they take an art class, and when I was at Biola, I had to take an art class, just one. What if I would have taken hers? Would your kid potentially be drawn into something like this? Would there possibly be an invitation, known or unknown to your student, to be able to research this more, dig deeper into this, understand deeper levels of thought, get in touch with the pieces of you that you just don't understand? Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the podcast. Krista, thank you so much. Krista's on the back end running all of this for me. I am grateful. So let me do a little setup. They're having an interview with two guys on, I want to say it's called the People's Podcast or something like that. I've never heard of it before. And I am actually going to play the very beginning too, where it's normally just like that recording, like, hey, welcome to the podcast, da, 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 because I want you to actually hear that this is Astri, this and her husband. This isn't, I'm not just starting it with some random woman talking. All right, let's go, Krista. Thank you.
On this episode are Astri Swenrud and Quinn Gomez Heitzberg. Astri Swenrud is an artist who lives and works in Los Angeles, and she is one half of the Semitropic Spiritualists. The Semitropic Spiritualists have exhibited their installations and performance works at Richard Tejas Fine Art, Cloud and Man, and the Vincent Price Museum in Los Angeles, Shangri-La in Joshua Tree, California, and at Llano del Rio, California, among other locations. Their work is currently up at General Projects and will also be part of the upcoming exhibition Totem Pass at Visitor Welcome Center, Los Angeles in October 2018.
So I got really interested in that intersection between sort of faith and feminism and finding ways to sort of translate meaning and a voice through these, what could seem like very esoteric systems, being translated into very practical, tangible, real-world results.
Quinn Gomez Heitzberg is the other half of Semitropic Spiritualists, and he is also an artist who lives and works in Los Angeles.
The project keeps moving to keep from becoming too concrete for a lot of its existence. We were interested in kind of keeping everything in this state of potentiality with the group. Like, you're always asking questions and you're not always answering questions, because when you start answering questions, then you start to have immovable beliefs.
So you start to have immovable beliefs. Well, as a believer, I do believe that some beliefs are immovable. You cannot move me on the belief that Jesus lived, died, rose again, that he was seen, that he ascended to the right hand of the Father. Like, there are immovable beliefs. The idea that we need to question everything actually reminds me of queer theory. The idea that we need to constantly be questioning this, questioning that. Nothing gets a firm and solid position. So I'm playing that so you can know and understand, one, that these are the real people, but then two, for Astri, it started with looking at faith and feminism. She'll talk about that a little bit later. And the idea that there could potentially be something wrong with having immovable beliefs that are firm, that are concrete. Okay, we're gonna go and keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So together you are Semitropic Spiritualists. You want to tell us what that is?
Yeah. Semitropic Spiritualists is a collaborative project that Quinn and I have been working on since 2012. We have, since that time, created a series of works that combine performance and installation and printed materials to explore ideas of both Californian utopian traditions and spiritual movements and histories, as well as using it to kind of dig into larger conceptual issues of faith and belief and charlatanism and sort of the human experience of translating a belief system or a metaphysical system.
We came upon this.
So when I say I had to listen to this like 8 times, and I am not stupid. I'm not a dumb person, but I'm like, even just the way that they're talking about it is just so like otherworldly and out there. And I'm not even gonna say that. But it's a collaborative project. So it's the Semitropic symbolism, or yeah, it is a utopian, it investigates and looks into California kind of utopian traditions or mystic traditions, spiritualism, spiritual traditions that have happened in California and things like that. But it's also very much performance art. And so we dress up, we become these semitropic spiritualists, and we now put on an art installation. We do some readings, and we maybe hold a pendulum, because that's what they did. And so we are wanting to, put on this display as well. I'm not going to say it's channeling. It's more, I think a more gracious way to consider it would be cosplay. And so oops, there is a comment. I had to pull out the dictionary for you don't need the dictionary, the thesaurus. You know what I need? I need them. Remember when we were kids and we had like those World Book encyclopedias, and your mom, your grandma had like all 90 of them from A to Z, because sometimes W was like mixed up into 4. That's what I need. I need the World Book encyclopedias for this. So at the end of it, she says that it is it's meant to help in translating belief systems, humans' experience with belief systems, or a metaphysical system, which really is just the frameworks that we hold that model for us our understanding of nature, reality, existence, the universe, the things that are really beyond what we can see or perceive. Like, what is that otherworldly thing? What's happening out here in the secret realm? What's happening out here in the realm of the unseen? Krista, we can go ahead.
Right. Yeah. At the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, you saw a lot of this kind of spiritualist community development taking place, especially across California. Originally, spiritualism as a religion began in, I believe, the 1840s in New York State, and it started with people like the Fox sisters and the philosophies of Andrew Jackson Davis. It became this kind of off-growth of Christianity, or in some ways a response to what was seen by certain individuals as the kind of overly mandated or harsh, like Calvinist beliefs. And this was an idea that you as an individual could have a much more direct connection to the spiritual. So it started out, on the one hand, as this very kind of progressive movement trying to get away from a lot of the structures of previous organized religion and allow people to have more autonomy within their own beliefs. But at the same time, as it was becoming connected to progressive causes like abolitionism and early women's rights, there was also a movement toward just complete like charlatanism and theatricality, where you would have these spectacular manifestations of ectoplasm and spirit images and all kinds of spectacular effects.
I think it's worth saying specifically too that I think.
So, Krista, did that go all the way to? You can just put it in our chat. Did that go all the way to 809?
Sometimes people confuse spiritualism with spirituality, and just as a general concept, and that spiritualism was a very specific set of beliefs that the soul progresses through the afterlife, and that you can contact souls in the afterlife, and that the soul progresses kind of in these stages after death, and that mediumship, like talking to the dead, is one of the major tenets, and then getting information from the dead, bringing things back. So, the mediumship is a major part of that, and that trend towards spectacular mediumship is really one of the things that kind of became interesting to us, because it sets up this like dichotomy between deeply held serious beliefs and philosophies and kind of the charlatans and fakery and people pulling cheesecloths out of their mouths and dark cabinets, and so spiritualism has this kind of tawdry reputation, but it also was a deeply held and very popular religion for a long time.
And
Okay, and so I'm glad he did this. That he made the difference between spiritualism and spirituality. The Semitropic group did have from what I can best understand and gather, they did have some type of theatrics behind it, some type of process in which they wanted to make things look extra spiritual, either in their connecting with spirits or their ability. I don't know if this would necessarily be considered in like some form of deliverance, but that they connected with the spirit. And then they have this, they mentioned ectoplasm or ecto kind of plasticity about their ectoplasticity probably isn't the right word, but ectoplastic type of participation. And so that would be some kind of physical manifestation of the spiritual realm, whether that's like my face contorted, or there was like foam in my mouth, or there was something that shows, oh, this person has had some kind of actual real connection with the other side, with the spiritual world. And so I want to look at, what does spiritualism mean? Again, I'm asking Grok because apparently I just don't know things, and I'm just going to need some help. And Grok said, I am here for you. Okay. Spiritualism, what is it? Spiritualism is a religious and philosophical movement that emerged in the mid-19th century, primarily in the United States and Britain, centered on the belief that the spirits of the dead can communicate with the living through mediums, individuals, and heightened psychic sensitivity. I did think it was interesting that Quinn, her husband, mentioned getting info from the dead and bringing things back. That was what became really interesting to them. Now, I don't know if he means that became interesting, like, oh, I would like to research that more and see, what were all the ways that people fake this? Or was he saying, hey, that became real interesting. Like, let me find me a pendulum or a Planchette or a divination board or something like that. I have questions. It teaches that human personality survives bodily death, and that the afterlife is a progressive, multi-layered realm where souls evolve toward higher states of wisdom and purity. Practices: seances, group gatherings in darkened rooms with a medium entering trance. That ain't for me. That ain't for y'all either. This ain't for y'all. I'm sharing this for informational purposes only. Let me find out one of my family members has decided. I'm gonna have to come to where you at. Physical mediumship, levitating tables, ectoplasm, apports, objects materialized by spirits. Mental mediumship, clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry. Spirit guides, many mediums claimed guidance from Native American spirits, historical figures, or ascended masters. And there we have it, people. So that is what spiritualism is, just in a very brief, quick snippet. Grok gave me so much information on it that I was like, yeah, no, I'm not really trying to do that deep of a dive. Again, Astri, this ain't about her. Again, this is about DBC. This is about Barry Corey, and why under his watch, these people who may hold this belief or think that there is some value in not just learning about it, not just studying perhaps the history, but as we get into a little bit later, we'll see that there actually might be a hint of perceived value in these things. Okay, let's go. Krista wrote in, she said, best case, they are doing performance art and having people interact with witchcraft. Performance art, as Krista and I were talking about it earlier yesterday or today, it would be okay, reenacting the Civil War, but using real bullets. Like, this stuff is dangerous. This isn't just, oh well, I just, and this, they don't mention anything about Ouija boards, but still, we just, I just move my tea leaves. Oh, I just read the confetti. Oh, I just played on this divination board. And we think that nothing happens. No, the spirit realm is actually it's real. You know what I mean? And so we don't want to lead young people into potentially engaging with this type of practice as if it's all just, a good time. We can all just, hey, you bring your cross and communion, I'm gonna bring my divination board. What? Okay. The next section talks about how they got into this and why. And so let's play that one.
In an
To
artistic
take it beyond
practice.
just like, oh,
Right.
that's an interesting.
Because there's so many, anyone from Los Angeles or who's been here and knows about it knows that this city and this region of the country is just littered with, we're lousy with weird cults and health spas and stuff like, and they're all really cool. So what is it about this one that really like got its hooks in y'all?
Yeah, well, we discovered the name the Semitropic Spiritualist tract, as Quinn was saying, in this real estate blog. And the name stood out to us not only because I realized that I had, unbeknownst, previously lived right across the street from this tract of land, but in both of our individual practices, we had not collaborated prior to that time. We had been doing research into specifically spiritualist histories. I had become interested in spiritualism through its ties to early feminism and the idea that it became this religious space in which women were able to have larger voices in society because they could sort of do this and around the prohibitions of women speaking in public by claiming that they were channeling and acting as mediums. And it just so happened that the spirits were really into women's equality, and those messages were being proclaimed at much larger scales than
Some woke
before.
spirits, yeah.
Exactly. And so I got really interested in that intersection between sort of faith and feminism and finding ways to sort of translate meaning and a voice through these what could seem like very esoteric systems being translated into very practical, tangible, real world results. So I was already kind of primed to notice that term spiritualism existing within an unexpected context. And the same is true for Quinn, because in your work, Quinn, do you want to talk about what you were looking at?
Yeah, I was looking at spiritualism and spirit communication as kind of this way of people dealing with kind of these intangible fears of death and like piercing back and forth and creating objects. Like a lot of my work deals with material culture, the things that we produce to either bridge our way toward the unknown or to separate us from the unknown that we're afraid of. So I was trying to create these like spirit trumpets. Like was one of the objects that was manufactured by Spiritualists. They kind of like megaphone looking things, but they were to.
Okay, did y'all hear that? They were already, and we didn't even finish the clip, but they were already into spiritual type things. He said he was into, he called it a spirit trumpet. And so, Father, the spirit trumpet, the spirit trumpet, I have so many questions, because when you think about a spirit trumpet and looking it up, like it's something that people blow on the other side to help. And when I say the other side, I mean like they didn't crossed over. And they would, the dead would blow this spirit trumpet to be able to bring communication into the earthly realm. Now, again, this is before, if we're looking at it in context, and I am going to link this so you guys can hear the whole thing in context, but this is before they actually found the Semitropic spiritualists. They're talking about what they were doing before. I also want to just circle back to the last clip real quick, because I forgot to mention, it was really important that this Semitropic spiritualism, again, that was started in the late 1800s, early 1900s, was an answer, or meant to be an answer, to Calvinism, which is seen as being very strict. And so this offered much more room for what it means to be a spiritual person. It took off a lot of those boundaries of Calvinism. And so that's an important thing to understand. I do encourage you, go back and listen to this. I know people are like, I don't want to hear this mess. Look, I am here for you. I will do the hard work. I'll do the heavy lifting. But it's important because it also helps us, when we're engaging people who might believe in some of this spiritualism stuff, but then two, if your kid ever comes home from college talking about, I made me a spirit trumpet, or I need a spirit trumpet, I think I heard a spirit, honey, the only trumpet we are waiting for is that big, I cannot wait for the trumpet to blow. Okay. But until then, don't be coming at me with your little spirit bugles. Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, let's keep going, Krista. But they were into this before. And so on one hand, it makes me ask the question. Sorry, Krista, I kept going. It makes me ask the question of, yes, you started this whole conversation with saying that this is performance art. You have installations. It's all performance. And I think, or I wonder if this is how they're able to, and only the wife Astri is at Biola, but is this possibly a way around, for her to be able to sign off on the contract, the statement of faith, but then still be able to participate with this at, on her nights? It's like daytime job, Biola Prof, nighttime job, like spiritualists. I don't know. I will say this. Actually, no, I won't. Keep going, Krista, please.
That we're afraid of. So I was trying to create these like spirit trumpets. Like was one of the objects that was manufactured by spiritualists. They kind of like megaphone looking things, but they were to amplify the spirits voices for us. But I was building things.
Yeah, so I didn't realize it was just that short. I could have let it play all the way through the first time. He was already doing it. There was already something intriguing about this spiritual realm. And again, if I am listening to it correctly, it does sound like that was before they got involved with the Semitropic spiritualists in 2012. Let's go to the next one, please.
Things like that. Not very successfully, but so as we found this group, this name, the Semitropic Spiritualist Tract, we started chatting about it and realized that if we didn't figure out a way to share this, we were going to end up fighting about it. So we decided that this might be a fruitful place for us to collaborate. And it was, as Astri said, our first collaborative project. This was in 2012, and we're still doing it.
And that first instantiation was at tell us about that first.
It was
version.
at one of the road concert projects organized by Stephen Van Dyke. It was on Mulholland Drive, the Mulholland Drive iteration of that, and we had created a roadside.
Like a roadside sort of welcome center or orientation center for the Semitropic spiritualists. The road concert events, for those who are not familiar with them, are a day-long series of artistic installations and performances or audio pieces that run down the length of an entire major street in Los Angeles. This one was located along Mulholland Drive, and we chose a site at the very beginning of Mulholland Drive, up in the Hollywood Hills, basically, with this overlook toward downtown Los Angeles, this kind of perfect vista or view to downtown Los Angeles, or at least it was supposed to be. It was kind of smoggy the day that we were there, so it was a little hard to see. But we set up this Semitropic Spiritualist sort of welcomes orientation station along the side of the road, where as people would stop by and visit us, we would lead them through a series of exercises meant to orient them to the landscape using a series of viewing devices, and then we would talk to them about the histories of these turn of the 20th century spiritual organizations that are now all defunct, but at that time had been very present in Los Angeles. We had done a lot of research in old LA newspapers from the time of the Semitropic Spiritualists and found all of these listings for sites and meeting halls and spirit mediums and seances and all of these events that were taking place across the city and just being published as these very banal lists in the newspaper. And so we had mapped those out with overlays that you could kind of see these locations of historic spiritualism against the backdrop of contemporary Los Angeles. And then ultimately we would lead the viewers who came to the show to this larger divination board that we created, where they would use a planchette and sort of ask them a bit tongue-in-cheek to use that to find new sites of spiritual manifestation. So already beginning to play with those poles between actual history and very sincere manifested organizations, but then also kind of bringing in these more spectacular forms and asking our viewers to engage with.
And did you guys think of that as a performance? Were you there like kind of performing, or was it a bit more like just information center?
It was a little bit of both. That was a very unscripted performance. We were there though as the Semitropic Spiritualists. We have, we wear slightly different clothes and present ourselves in slightly different ways when we are them. And we had planned, I think, to do 2 hours out on the side of the road, and ended up staying for the entire day because people kept coming and people kept interacting, and we had people lined up to go through this process with us and hear our spiel and divine on the divination board, and so I think over the course of the day also that is our first performative project. The performance aspect of it became clear that we were embodying these people.
So I was just typing in the chat, how do you cosplay divination? I don't know. But what I do want to hit, and why I thought that piece was important, was because of how much they talked about the idea of the performance. They dress up differently. It's about the performance. I also thought that it was interesting that they mentioned that it helps to bring out the best impulses within the human experiences of faith. But they never mentioned Jesus in the best experiences. But this is really that jumping off point that this is a performance. We're doing something that is performative, but yet, as we'll see, at some point, art and real life seem to meet together. And I don't know if it's if they're, for them, it's always been maybe 2 tracks, because we just heard in the last one of the last clips where there was already some kind of inquiry or curiosity about a lot of the spiritual realm stuff, at least from what Quinn, the husband, said. And now we're talking about this performance side of things and this curiosity about the semitropic spiritualists and this turn of the century spiritualism and things like that. I wonder if they've merged together. I don't know. Again, my problem is not with them. necessarily. My problem is with the leadership of Biola from the board down, who allow these things to go through the cracks, or who don't even check to see if there is a crack there at all, or who may knowingly just be allowing this to go on in their university. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh no, wait, hold on. Sorry, Krista. Let's go to that link that has the picture of that first installation. Actually, on their website, they have a picture of the first installation. Nope, not that one. It's the first link, I believe. It looks like they're sitting behind some tables, and I think there's some houses behind them up on Mulholland, so it's kind of high up. And so I'll post their website down there so you can see this too. I don't want to be the one to just come on and be like, hey, believe this. No, actually do the research, look it up, see what they're talking about. This is not that installation, but we'll look at this one. Sorry, Krista. You guys, thank God for Krista. I am thankful for all that she does. Okay, so this is not that one, but this is another installation that they have done. This one was more when I say more recent, it just is not from the first one in 2012. This one, let me get to that page myself. Let's see here. Bear with me, y'all. Oh, I don't actually have that one. All right, I'm gonna look at it from here. This installation is, it says, inspired by the remote desert landscape and the historical search for a place for experimental societies to flourish. What is an experimental society? Like, are we talking about like when, I don't know, the Mayflower came over? Like, what is an experimental society to flourish? We followed the lead of the original Semitropic Spiritualist Association, creating our own outpost in undeveloped land. So the original Semitropic Spiritualists bought land on the outskirts of LA, and they kind of just set up their own little place that was just for them, where people live kind of like in tents or, things like that. This work features an installation of ritual objects, including orientation and divination tools, as well as performative introduction to our history and future through Semitropic Spiritualist tract. This project was installed. Okay, so this ain't too far from me. So you can see some of what it looks like. There's a lot of triangular involvement. I'm not really sure what that's about. They talk about it very quickly in the broader podcast. We're not going to hit on that, but it's very interesting. Like, if you look at, stop scrolling, please. If you see right there, the bottom center, all of the triangles there. Or if you look at the one that, I don't know, to me, it's on my left. It's a lot of triangles inside of this wooden shape. The one right under, it's all triangular. They do mention that the triangle has been a symbol of spiritualism, for a while, and they just said it would fit. I believe in the cross, so I don't know about the triangles. Okay. Let us keep going, and then yeah, let's keep going. We're almost to the end, y'all. Sorry, I can't hear you. Go ahead and do the what do you call it? The podcast.
Conversation with Astri Swenrud and Quinn Gomez-Heitzberg.
So Quinn and Astri, I would be interested to hear you talk about performances of yours for Semitropic Spiritualists that I've been to, where I have or I've had an interesting relationship to them, trying to figure out like if there's a level of cynicism to it, or there's a level, like you mentioned earlier, a tongue-in-cheek aspect to it. Like, how do you approach it in relationship to your own experiences with spiritual life, or an understanding of like invisible exterior forces?
Yeah, that's something that we've thought a lot about in creating these projects. What is our relationship to kind of the source material that we were discussing here earlier, where while the project does come from this very particular historical touch point with the spiritualist faith, with the fact that we were really sort of interested in the way that this history, which while spiritualism is still practiced by some today, is largely kind of a time capsule, or no longer a major voice within American religious practice. Spiritualism is this kind of fascinating history of both what we see as the best impulses within the human experience of faith, the desire for community, the desire to sort of do good and right in the world, and to have this very like strong sense of personal agency and community connection. But also at the same time, there was just this total construct of, as we were talking about, manipulation and sort of the grift of spiritualism. And so to us, it became an interesting way to kind of step back and almost take a broader look at all of these different positions that emerge when you can kind of clearly see these human constructions built around an experience of the spiritual, or an experience trying to tap into the unknown. And I think for Quinn and myself, it's something that we've tried to approach very openly and honestly. While there is often a sense of humor kind of subtly engaged within the works, we don't try to approach it as like an entirely cynical experience. In fact, in many ways, the project, especially in many of its earlier iterations, we realized we were constantly desiring to be really genuine and be really truthful, to use the Semitropic spiritualist history as a jumping off point to then really think about the nature of community and the nature of belief and what it is that brings people together, and these very sort of positive or necessary human motivations beyond within a spiritual experience.
It is the best impulses within human experience. And I think my biggest question is, at what point has the art left the lab and now it's in real life? Because there is a sense in which what they're talking about does have a real life aspect to it. They talk about, this idea of, the manipulation side of it, and how that was part of the spiritualist aspect. But then they also, in another segment that I'm not going to play, talk about, them not wanting to participate in this manipulation, but also understanding that they are embodying and, part of these people, and so they have to be very careful with the people that they're engaging with. And so there is an aspect to this where the art and the real life really come together and they meet. And so I played that just so that we hear, like, is this just something that's tongue in cheek, like she said? Like, no, it's a little bit more than that, but there is also this performance piece. And so I want to make sure that what we're understanding is they have a big piece of their claim is that, this is performance art for us. We are taking something that was from the turn of the century, and we are now using it as a form of performance art, and we'll use installations and all of these things to help, research about this, but then also to help bring this to people so that they can understand it. where does that divide? Where do they separate out the art and the real life? Because it does seem very enmeshed. Krista, let's go to the one at 2804.
In that very slippery space to try to understand it.
You guys have kind of developed over time this symbolic constellation of symbols that have evolved over time and kind of, they've been added to and changed. And I'm interested in that development, but also more so in general, how Semitropic Spiritualists, it seems to me, you guys are always slightly moving it in a different direction, and that change, like you said, with the Synanon group of obviously becoming a totalitarian cult.
Not yet,
but and later I want to ask about how many acolytes you guys have taken on. But
we're working on
but
it.
Like, tell me about those the kind of shifting directions you guys have taken the project in. Like, what is motivating that change? Is that just kind of part of the project at its like core? But it does seem like you guys are always kind of like moving in a slightly different direction, and then with the next project taking it a different way.
Yeah, I think to build on something Astri was just talking about too, like that the project has kept moving to keep from becoming too concrete for a lot of its existence. We were interested in kind of keeping everything in this state of potentiality with the group. Like, you're always asking questions and you're not always answering questions, because when you start answering questions, then you start to have things you have to immovable beliefs. Right. So if you're always in the state of potentiality, you're always moving kind of forward with it, then there's always something else to engage with. There's always a new idea, and asking questions in this path of questioning was something that's been really important, for a lot of the project. So it's always about the unknown and trying to touch the unknown, but putting out these queries and these, finding different ways to ask questions. And the symbols have come out of...
Yeah, we've created a set of simple symbols, as you mentioned, Matt, that we kind of created in our first project almost without thinking too hard about them. When we started the initial project at the road concerts, we had no idea that we would do any other works as Semitropic Spiritualists. It was kind of a one-off experiment. But when we got home that night, we had an email from a curator, Mariana Pomonis, who had seen the work and was putting together a performance show at the Vincent Price Museum, and she asked us to be part of that as Semitropic Spiritualists. So we decided, well, we're going to say yes, so I guess this is a thing now. And so the project has really kind of grown incrementally. Each project brings up another question or brings up another avenue we want to explore. The symbols similarly have developed as we've created this set of images that each project we kind of apply meaning to those symbols in slightly different ways. And that in itself has become a really interesting part of the project to us, that if we take the same set of symbols but contextualize them slightly differently every time we present the work, you can kind of get to see how the nature of a belief structure or an organization can change in really subtle ways. For the current body of work that we've been working on, we decided to actually make a more definitive shift. As Quinn was saying, for the most part, we in previous works had been trying to exist in this state of potentiality, asking questions, not really making any promises. But for this next set of works, we're actually taking the stance that we have a system that can help your life.
They have a system that can help your life. Look. My life is already peculiar, okay? I can't invite the demonic into my life. We ain't nobody got time for that. Okay, so going back, remember I showed you the confetti. We were interpreting the confetti. let's go back to the one of the confetti pieces. So there were four. I want to highlight this one in particular because if you look in the middle, I mean, Krista, I don't know if you can zoom in any more than that. Maybe not. But is that not it? Okay, I'm not gonna say it's a pentagram, but is it not like pentagram-esque, pentagram light, pentagram adjacent? Like, what are the symbols that we are creating and recreating, and what is the meaning that they're giving to the symbols? Symbols are important. We have tons of symbols in Christianity. The cross is a symbol. Like, but the cross has meaning, so we can't divorce a symbol from its meaning. And if we are recreating meaning to the symbol, what is the recreation that we're giving that symbol? But Krista highlighted that to me. I thought it was very interesting that it does look pentagram-esque, pentagram adjacent. I think that's what we're gonna go with. Pentagram adjacent. Maybe it's not. Again, I just have questions. I have tons of questions. What does this mean? And it's not even, I don't even have, like, again, I don't have questions for this lady. I have questions for DBC. DBC, you want to go to lunch? I know we tried that a couple years ago, but you wanna try it again? Because it doesn't make any sense. And what are you doing if you have a kid who already is interested in spiritual things and they are not necessarily sure of their sexuality? Like, Biola should be a place where parents can feel at least somewhat confident that even outside of the Bible department, my kids will be okay. They ain't gonna get the okey doke. They not gonna get the hoodwink and bamboozle. And I'm not sure of that with this teacher. I'm not sure of that when they take English or if they want to be psychology majors. They definitely gonna get the hoodwink and bamboozle if they want to be a sociology major. I was a sociology major. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure of that. And so the questions that I have for DBC is what are you doing? How are you answering to the parents? See, this is where I think we really are missing it. Parents are sending their kids to Biola and they're giving tons of money. Yeah, Barry answers to the board, but he really should be answering to parents who are concerned. And understanding that even more than the board and parents, he has to answer to God. Like, at the end of the day, we all gonna have to stand before judgment. And if you are someone that allows for people to just come in and do what they want, be led astray, like, you are playing with the souls and lives of young people. And if they are anything like I was when I was at Biola, I loved my professors. I loved my sociology professors. Brad Christensen, who Krista has talked about before on, I think on here on her podcast, his heart for humanity, so beautiful. And so are they able to wrap up divination in a package that seems nice and pretty with a bow on it and give it to your kid? I got questions. All right. I think I want to go to that link I just sent you, Krista. Nope, not that one. Is it the one I sent? I don't think so. Oh, it is. Oh yeah, that's it. Sorry. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let me open that up a little bit so I can read it. And big shout out to Krista for helping me. Thank you. So this is one of their test sites, little, installations, I guess. And so they say this project was our first solo gallery exhibition. We created a new body of work in which the semitropic spiritualist symbols developed through previous installations and performances were translated into tools of self-discovery and improvement. Borrowing aesthetic and linguistic styles from the 1960s and 70s counterculture, do-it-yourself spiritual and self-help materials. Honey, if I ever decide that I'm about to use a do-it-myself spiritual and self-help material, I know I'm gonna be in hell. Ain't no way. Y'all know how I am. Ain't no way. What good do I have to offer even myself? Do we not all have to rely on Jesus? So I am confused at the do-it-yourself spiritual and self-help materials. But this is what the professor at Biola then created, as well as historic modes of divination. We created an installation which moved the locus of investigation away from the external world and toward internal experience. What good is my internal experience? Maybe I'm the only one. Through the creation of an interactive divination system, the Semitropic Spiritualists invited visitors to engage with the group's symbology as a method of personal guidance and enlightenment. Make it make sense. Okay, so this makes me ask now I do want to ask a question about the professor. What is her view of humans and humanity? How can we guide ourselves? Scroll up a little bit, Krista, so I can see the beginning of that paragraph. How can we lead ourselves spiritually and into self-help materials? And I'm not talking about I need self-help in order for my budget. Okay, maybe. But even then I need help with my budget. But like, as the auntie in the room, I'm going to ask the question of, does Biola know DBC? At this point, nobody else should be on the DBC need to come front and center to the carpet. He needs to be the one put on the carpet because he is the one who leads this ship. And this is under his watch. All you have to do is be one of her students and go and look up her website. She don't have to talk about this in class. I can go and talk to her about this during office hours. She doesn't have to publicly make some display about, oh, check out my woo-woo, self-help materials. But this is what they got. This is what they have. You can go back, Krista. Sorry. So if you look, you can see some of the spiritual items. This person is swinging pendulum. But the question is, and so they've created a guidebook, and the guidebook is called "What Can Semitropic Spiritualists Do for You?" And then it helps you look through or work through all of these different symbols. Some of the symbols are like the candle, the hammer. Let's look at some of those symbols, Krista. Okay, let's look at the palm tree, because I thought the palm tree was really interesting. See if I can open it up a little bit more. The palm tree is the symbol of history and legacy. It is the roots from where we come. The roots from where who come? Wait, go back. Thank you. The source of life and growth. The palm tree directs us back to the moment of origin. Cast your mind back and find your original question. What is the source for which you seek? What is the origin from which you come? Look to those who searched before you, learning from their efforts. I really hope this is a joke. Like, I really hope this, the hee hee ha ha, the the part of the cosplay where they just trying to show you like, oh, these are what people did. It don't make no sense. We don't believe in this. I really hope that's what it is. And it's not seriously asking the question, what can the semitropic spiritualists do for you? Because where am I finding out in scripture that I come from a palm tree? That my history and legacy is in the roots of a palm tree. The palm tree directs us back to the moment of origin. I don't see that nowhere in Genesis. I don't. Let's go to the next one, Krista. You can do the pendulum. That's fine. The pendulum represents mystery and divination. It is the symbol of all that lays beyond our conscious mind, the space beyond our knowledge. The pendulum directs us toward the unknown. This enigmatic space offers both potential and peril. It can be easy to stay within the safety of the known. Remember, everything about this is pushing us to the unknown, answering questions, continuously asking questions, never finding ourselves in a place of immovable truth. But this symbol asks us how to step outside the comfortable as you orient yourself toward the mystery. Avoid becoming lost in the darkness. Follow your intuition and divine your way forward, seeking where the unknown will take you. Again, I really hope this is somebody's hee ha ha moment. Mo, the joke is on you. We was just playing. We don't believe this but there's nothing on their page that says, we don't really believe this. Not even in the podcast. They do say that this is tied back to something from the 1900s, 19th century, turn of the century stuff, but it does not fully say that today this isn't helpful. Actually, what we heard at the end of the last segment that we listened to was that what's next is that they have a system that can help your life. And so that's where I'm asking the question, where does art meet real life reality? Because what it seems like is that they're saying they have a new system that can actually help you. At the Christian school that believe in the Bible, the helpful system is divination. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know what to make of it. Let me see if there was. I wanted to show you guys they have like a divination toolkit, like a beginner's divination system. Can you pull that up, please, Krista? And that'll be my last one. Let's see. It should be the last link I sent you. Yeah, there you go. So the Semitropic Spiritualist Symbology Divination System. First of all, let's talk about the fact that they're trying to charge us $85. If this is not the he and ha, let's be honest. Divination ain't the way. Divination will lead you to hell. So I can't pay $85 to go to hell. Like, I can't. I just can't. The full divination set. So it's not even like they're trying to say, this is the pretend divination set. This is the set that you use if you want to cosplay as a diviner. I don't know. Full divination set. The Semitropic Spiritualist Symbology Divination System is a tool to help you access your own deepest questions and reveal internal truths. Using the tools that we have made available for anyone that wants to join us, we have developed a method of exploring your own innermost self through learning more about how our symbols relate to your own life. Your symbol don't relate to my own life. Hear my life and hear your symbol. They not the same. They don't overlap. Ain't no Venn diagram between your symbol and my life. No. But I will say that as parents, as the aunties and uncles in the room, as the grandparents, y'all should be concerned. Like this, just when I thought, we talking about the race stuff with Biola, we talked about the queer stuff with Biola. Megan did her article earlier this week. Krista's done quite a few. Elise has done some stuff. She did a interview with Everett Piper on this. I didn't think it was gonna get no worse. Oh, and then this, I feel like worse said hold my beer and came just coming along into the room. Here is worse. And then it's like, is it even a hierarchy or a spectrum? Like, is this just worse, or is this just more of the same? More of the same disappointment, more of the same things that cause concern and anger, and I would say righteous anger, because if this is what your young people can be influenced into because their professor is into this, and there has been nothing that I have seen that says we don't believe, like on that divination toolkit, that would have been the perfect place to say you can use these tools when you come to our cosplay event so that you can also be in character as we pretend to blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't. It says our tools will help you with your life, as if there is some overlap and some way in which spiritually the pendulum really can help influence and direct my life. And so with that, and Thaddeus is on here. Hey, Thaddeus. Yes, we are definitely talking Faye, whatever you want to call it, God calls it. Which Faye. I said this. I said, Faye, you must be old school in the church. Because I said I'm old school. And in the church, they would have just called this witchcraft. They would have said, oh, she does witchcraft. Yes. But I'm not calling this woman a witch. I'm not saying she in the witchcraft. I'm gonna leave all of the information on the table. Like I said, she is probably a wonderful woman. She's been at Biola since 2009. She started the Semitropic Spiritualists in 2012. They have said on the podcast that they had interest in this kind of stuff. That guy had his he was creating a spirit bugle, spirit trumpet, whatever, a little before they started the Semitropic things. If I understand correctly, it's not that she's doing something new. It's that people are now digging in and researching and looking more and not trusting these institutions. And now, it's high time, hold people accountable. Like I said, Thaddeus, Eric Thomas, Fred Sanders, Sean, they did a video, they looked at the Bible department. Sean, I think it was Sean who said, I wouldn't send my kid to sociology. I don't think they know. I was talking to someone else who's deeply affiliated with Biola, and not all professors know every department that's at Biola. However, I do have a source that's at Biola, deeply embedded in Biola, and from what I was told, Barry Corey was made aware of these concerns. And so again, I'm not looking at nobody else. The only person I'm looking at this point is Barry Corey. And what are you doing? What's going on at Biola? All right, we have one more thing. We have a video of them actually doing some of their little stuff, and it's a video. It's like they do like a call and response would be the best way to do it. So Chris is gonna play that, and yeah, you can start that. That is probably a good place. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. We are the Semitropics.
A little bit more.
And such a spirit of weeping came over us as I had never experienced before. We wept and wept till the day dawned.
They wept and wept, but they never stopped seeking the end.
In 2011, Harold Camping predicted that the end of time was nigh. He had examined the scriptures, finding numbers and dates to form his calculation of the end. Billboards were hung throughout the city of Los Angeles, admonishing the community to prepare. But on the day in question, the curtains were closed at Camping's house. No one would answer the door, and the end did not arrive.
I am flabbergasted. I am looking for answers.
Dates came and passed, but they never stopped seeking the end.
These are but a few examples of those who seek the end, finding meaning in scriptures and numbers, in comets and catastrophe, in technology and terror. In 2021, to seek a future outside of the end.
We must undo in order to rebuild.
The end must end to begin again.
Invert.
Erase.
Restart.
Renew.
Each symbol we have come to know has found its end and become its opposite.
The
The end must end to begin again.
What was once a hopeful point of origin is now an environment destroyed.
Uproot the palm tree.
The tool once used to lay our foundation has now become a weapon wielded against others.
Lay down the hammer.
The tent that once invited others to shelter in our community has become a fortress of insularity.
Tear down the tent.
The candle of knowledge, once left unchecked, has now led to the fires of untruth burning uncontrolled.
Stop fanning the flames.
We must undo in order to rebuild.
Extinguish the candle. Unbuild the fire.
Clean the slate. We must undo in order to rebuild.
Where will it now take us?
In rebuilding, we ascend.
Join us as we climb.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know what? That maybe it's just me, but that ain't for me. That is not for me. I would encourage your spirit not to let that be for you either. But there it is. Krista, can you go back to that page so that I can read the description where it was talking about the anti-apocalyptic? Okay, so it was kind of like when I showed you guys the picture in the desert at Joshua Tree and they had that installation. So this is very similar. It says, following the tradition of street corner preachers, stereotypically seen holding signs warning that the end is near, the semitropic spiritualists invert this model, becoming anti-apocalyptic messengers. In a theatrical set made of artificial flames and dramatic text backdrop, we present a lecture on the history of failed end-time prophecies while asking our audience to participate with us in questioning and working to counter the desire for an apocalyptic end. Yeah, so there it is. There's that. This is not, again, this is not to bag on this woman. I don't know her. Like I said, she could sit and worship the left side of an ant's leg. I am not that I wouldn't pray for her, and I did. I have prayed for her a few times since finding out about all of this. What my concern is the influence that she has on young people that we send to Biola, believing wholeheartedly and in good faith that even though there may be a few issues, certainly nobody is going to teach my child divination. Surely my child is not going to go to somebody's website and understand that we can possibly swing a pendulum, and I can buy a book that has all of these spiritual tool helps that will, help me in my personal life as I am able to, self-help my spirituality. Certainly not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Even the person that I would say is okay with their child, being a Christian who is queer affirming, they would not be like, oh yeah, and divination. Oh yeah, and spells. Oh yeah, and this. Absolutely not. But yet somewhere along the line, here we are. Here we are. And it makes me sad. It makes me sad that these are the voices that many young people have. And I know people will say, well, you're just, making it bigger than what it is. And it might only be one teacher at one. Well, that one is too many. Where is the oversight? Where is the oversight? I have a friend, Clay Jones, and he wrote about, I don't have it now, but he wrote about him, about his experience at Biola and being let go because he didn't necessarily hold to all of their specific tenets and beliefs and like the rapture and, some of these things, like rapture-like things. And he couldn't in good faith, and he is a good faith, upstanding man, he could not sign the statement of faith as it was written. Not because he wanted to swing a pendulum, not because he was out here doing a call and response, anti-apocalyptic end time mumbo jumbo. It just, he couldn't. And when he brought it to the leadership, he was let go. Like, you can't sign this. And there's more to the story. I am bringing it very, very succinctly, but this person, I'm wondering, like, is this all just cosplay and you don't really believe none of this? No, you don't believe none of it. You just happen to forget to put a disclaimer on your spiritual toolkit that offers people self-help in their spiritual life. You forgot that disclaimer. And so, but in reality, you do believe that Jesus is the only way, that the symbols that we uphold as Christians are the symbol of the cross, that in reality the gospel is the message of Christ, his life, death, burial, resurrection, the fact that he was seen after he rose and that he ascended and sits at the right hand of the Father. Like, what are you believing? Because right now what it looks like you believe in is that we can read confetti, the stuff I get from Dollar Tree. I mean, maybe she got special confetti. I don't know. I don't care. What I care about is that year after year, people send their kids to Biola and other Christian institutions, and this is the stuff. These are some of the people that are influencing our young people. I praise God for what that is. And for others who are there and wanting to walk a very faithful road, but that ain't in art. Let's be honest. Some of my friends who teach there aren't in art. They're not in sociology. We should be able to at least have a strong level of belief and understanding that my kid will not, by a professor, be introduced in a friendly way. I'm not saying we didn't learn about these people. They lived a long time ago. Here were some of their errors. Da 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 da. No, I'm not saying that. But don't introduce my child to divination like it's a positive youth movement. The next revival. I'm done. It's been a while. I am done. And with that, you guys, pray for our institutions. Pray for those who are at Christian institutions, who are trying to hold it down, who are really working hard to fight the good fight and keep the institution on the straight and narrow. And pray that those who have nefarious means, those who are not Christians, who don't believe, that they will be removed. It's time to go. It's time to clean house. You gotta go. Just bye. Because that's not for us. It's not for our young people. Our young people deserve better. And if you spending your hard-earned money sending your kid to a Christian institution, and this is the stuff they come away with, they should be losing money left and right. Donors should be pulling their money left and right. But again, I'm very interested. I am extremely curious to see if there's going to be some kind of retraction or some kind of announcement that, oh, she was just playing. Girl, she didn't mean it. Oh no, we don't do that. That's not for us. Yeah, I'll wait, but I won't hold my breath. Bye, y'all.